Live with CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Payne.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP podcast, season 3, episode 28. I'm looking forward to my show tonight. I have a guest named Derrick Payne. He's a big Blue Jays fan and a Blue Jays memorabilia collector, and he's going to show some of his memorabilia he's collected over the years from the Toronto Blue Jays, and some of it's even gone back to the days of Exhibition Stadium in Toronto as well. He must be very excited about this 2022 Toronto Blue Jays team that's now 3-1 and should win, I think, between 90 and 92 games this year. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to Derrick and seeing some of his Blue Jays items that he's collected over the years. So just bear with me, guys, and I will bring on my guest. Good evening, Derrick. How you doing?
I'm good, Chris. How are you?
Good. Can you hear and see me okay?
Yeah, everything's good.
Okay. Good. And to honor you, I put in the Rogers Center in the background.
Very nice.
I should have put Exhibition Stadium. Hey, I'm a Tigers fan, but I grew up in Oakville in the late 70s, early 80s, and my late dad took me to a lot of games at old Exhibition Stadium, so I have fond memories of that old ballpark.
Yeah, it was a good ballpark. It was just a little cold and not the nicest place to watch a game. The Dome's not the nicest place either, but it's home, so it's what we got.
I was gonna say they have made some changes with the Dome. I don't mind it when it's wide open in the summertime, but I'm just not a fan of it when it's shut.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. When, like, opening night, for example, when it was rainy, a little bit cold, I was glad to have a roof over us so that we could still get a game in.
Yeah, because there was a few times we drove from Oakville or Guelph to Exhibition Stadium, and then the game got rained out. And I'm like, back then gas was cheap, but it's still you're bummed out. You're a kid, you want to go to a game. You get there, there's a rain delay, and then they postpone the game. So
we know that's never happening here unless we get those freak ice storms.
A little bit.
Roof.
Definitely. Hey, your sign in the back. Can you just tell my audience how you ended up getting that Blue Jays sign from the Exhibition Stadium?
Yep. So this actually came from a gentleman that was the director of on-field operations at Exhibition Stadium. And when the building closed, he had taken it home, and he kept it in his possession until, I think, about a year and a half ago. So he had it tucked away since 1989, and then he gave it to me. Wow. So now it's up on my wall.
That's really cool, and I'm glad they went back to that logo because the one that they had from 2004, 2011 didn't do anything. Like, I'm not a Jays fan, but that's not the Blue Jays to me. The black jerseys and that logo they had.
The Angry Bird, yeah, the
yes.
Angry Bird logo is not good. They've had a couple of bad ones. So the T-Bird with the Blue Jay that looked like he's on steroids, that was also very bad. So they've gone through a few, but I'm glad we're back to this. Yeah.
Yes, and I hope they stick to it because this is what the fans grew up with, and this is their tradition.
Yeah, 100%. It's much
same
better
with now. Same with the Buffalo Sabres and a few other teams. They went away from their traditional uniforms, went to these awful ones, and then they finally realized the fans don't want that. They want what's the classic look.
Yep. You can never go wrong with the original. The original look is always the best for the teams.
Definitely. How was your day today, Derrick?
I was good. Just getting excited.
Okay.
Another game tonight against the Yankees. So
7:05.
Yeah, 7:05.
Okay.
It's always good when you can go into New York and take a win. So
yes,
maybe take four.
Well, what I tell Jay fans, and I'm a Tigers fan too, just take one game at a time, because people are like, oh, we want a game and it's like, it's a long year, it's a long season. You just take one at a time and just try try to focus on taking 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 every series.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you can go on the road and win 2 games on the road, you're doing well.
Yes,
For
and I
sure.
tell people too. If obviously the Jays have the great offense, the Tigers' offense is kind of slow right now, but it's still only April. And I tell teams fans sometimes it takes to May to get offenses going because they had a short spring training, as you know, and then the weather, like Detroit plays outdoors too, so the cold weather can affect the hitting as well.
Yep. I was actually watching some of the Tigers game this afternoon. Looked like it was a little windy there, so you gotta take him when you get. Yeah, I was kind of hoping they'd beat the Red Sox this afternoon.
Yeah, it was disappointing. It was disappointing. They were up 3-0, and then Boston came back and won 5-3. But I'm just so happy Spencer Torkelson, the rookie sensation or their future, had his first hit today. So maybe that'll get him going as well. And the smart part with the Tigers is they put him down in the lineup hitting 8s to put a little less pressure on him to perform.
Yep, and the Tigers are good. They're a sneaky team. They're going to be good. It's not going to take very long. That's going to be a good team.
I just miss the old. I was going to say, Derek, I miss the old rivalry with the Blue Jays and the Tigers, and to me, they should still be in the same division.
Yeah, for sure. Those were great. When they're so close, they should be in the same division. We have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay should not be in our division.
Tampa Bay shouldn't even have a team. Tampa Bay shouldn't have a team. And you know what? As much as we complain about the Rogers Center, that stadium looks pretty darn good compared to that stadium in Tampa Bay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Tampa Bay is, I don't know how long a team will be there. Maybe they'll get a new park. Who knows? They seem to compete every year. So
definitely. Hey, I was going to say,
I don't know. They keep doing it every year.
Is that your original hoodie or did you just get that recently? The 91 All-Star game in Toronto?
No, this is redone. This is a brand new one.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe, man. It's going on 31 years since Toronto's had an All-Star game.
Yep. That means they're almost due for another one. If they had a new park or maybe some more updates next year on the Rogers Center, maybe they get another All-Star game. Who knows?
What's the latest? Are they doing more updates to the Rogers Center next year? I heard the 100 level.
Yeah, they're supposed to do more in the concourse, I believe. Hopefully, like bringing back some more of the history. You walk around the concourse, it's just like a concrete like tunnel. Like put up some pictures, like put up some world championship stuff, you know, like even guys from the past, Vernon Wells, Delgado, guys that everyone loved. Put some pictures up, show a little history of the team. Right now, there's nothing there.
Yeah, the only statue they have there is Ted Rogers. Okay, but they don't. I've been to 13 ballparks in the States, and you see statues and banners and pictures, like you said. And the Blue Jays really should have some kind of Hall of Fame at the Rogers Center, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, something. Even if you're new to the sport or new to going to games, at least you can see like this is how we kind of got here. Show Jesse Barfield, show George Bell, show Dave Steve. Like, if those guys aren't there, maybe the team doesn't stay in Toronto. You never know. The Expos left. So
celebrate their history. Celebrate the history. That's what's lacking there.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna get to some questions. Can you just tell my audience here in Guelph just a little bit about yourself and how long you've been a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays, and just quick thoughts on the 2022 Blue Jays team so far?
Yeah, no problem. I actually grew up in Guelph.
Wow.
And kind of in like the perfect time for being a Jays fan, like mid '80s, early '90s. Like they were competitive every year. You kind of got spoiled a little bit. You thought, hey, my team wins all the time. This is great, especially being a Leaf fan too, and they would never win. So at least we had something. But I just started with collecting baseball cards when I was like 10 years old. Baseball cards turn into autographs, then you get autographs, and then you realize you can get the player's bat that he used, and then the snowball effect happens, and you end up with a basement full of stuff.
Definitely. I was gonna say I grew up in Oakville in the late '70s and early '80s. I was a Tigers fan, but also a Blue Jays fan. And if my mom back then didn't throw all my stuff out, I would have probably about 2 or 3 rooms full of sports memorabilia because I used to collect everything, stickers, cards, everything back then. And unfortunately, some of it got thrown out, but I still have a nice sports collection. And for me, it's a hobby because some people do it for the money. I do it. It's a hobby of mine.
Yeah, me too. Like eventually everything will get sold. Everything gets sold eventually by somebody.
But yes,
I collect the things that I like. It might not be the most valuable. It could be some obscure player that nobody else really remembers, but he means something to me. So, and if you get something that's valuable down the road, it's a plus for somebody. It won't be me that's selling it, but somebody will sell it.
I was gonna say, do you remember your first? Do you remember your first card or your first Blue Jays item you started collecting?
Uh, Cards, I like the cards. The image on the cards are like kind of stuck in my head. Like you'll see something, Todd Stottlemyre with the bucket dumping the balls on an upper deck card, or like the old Tops cards. Like you just remember the images on them. But my first game used piece was a Jesse Barfield bat. This one here. It's it's a Rawlings
Awesome.
on deck. I think this one's in 1987. It's got the pine tar all on
Wow.
it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
Jesse's number
awesome.
29. Yeah.
To be
So
to
this
be a
one, not, not the most valuable bat, but it's probably my favorite bat because it's the first one. So it's just one that it's a keeper forever.
Yeah, he's awesome. Him and his wife have followed me on Instagram, and I talked to Marla and Jesse, and they're so down to earth. And I said, look, I'm a Tigers fan, but I grew up liking you guys as well. And uh, I said to Jesse, to this day, maybe Batista might be a close second, but to me, Barfield's the best arm I've ever seen, throwing arm in an outfielder.
Yeah, well, for sure. And if people that didn't see him play, you go on YouTube and you pull up Jesse Barfield outfield throws, it's incredible. Like the accuracy and like there's no hop and it's at home plate or it's at third base from right field. It was insane. He was an amazing player.
To be honest, I still think he should be on the Blue Jays level of excellence because to me, he was one of their star players in the '80s and helped develop the franchise.
Oh yeah, all three of those outfielders should. Bell's up, so Mosby and Barfield should be up there too.
There should
If
be
you,
basically there should be more names up there. And there's one guy I wanted to talk to you. I've had him on my podcast. He's mentored me. One of the nicest guys. I never thought I would ever get him on my podcast. Jerry Howarth.
oh
To
wow,
Yeah, he was on my podcast about 9 months ago. He gave me an hour of his time, and I was shocked that I was able to get him on here. But to me, he should be on the level of excellency, rep beside Tom Cheek. And I don't know why the Jays have not honored Jerry Howarth for his 36 plus years with the team.
yeah, that's a little odd. And there should be more guys up on there. Like there's lots of rings. Fill the place up with the past. Like shows from team history.
I was
Like
going to ask, yeah, and I was going to ask you this too. What's your thoughts on Roberto Alomar? Like he was a Hall of Fame player, but what's your thought of them taking him down from the Rogers Center so quickly?
uh I don't agree with it. I think his name should still be up there. Doesn't affect the Baseball Hall of Fame. Didn't pull him out of the Hall of Fame.
No,
He
no.
was never. And if he did something horrible, like he wasn't charged with anything, nothing happened. It seemed like they kind of pulled all of his stuff out pretty fast and kind of erased him from the franchise. He's just gone. Everything's gone, and it's hard to tell that story of the past with World Series and your first Hall of Famer, and you've erased him. It's
Well,
a shame, but I don't know if it.
I,
I don't know if they ever put his stuff back up.
I totally agree with you on that. Look at the Buffalo Bills. O.J. Simpson did way worse things than Alomar, and he's still on the Bills Wall of Fame. He's still in
Yeah,
the Football Hall of Fame. What Alomar did on the field with the Blue Jays should be kept at the Rogers Center. If they want to cut off contact with them as a representative or an ambassador, that's their choice, and that's fine. but what he did on the field should not be taken away at the Rogers Center like he never existed. I guess they call it ghosting.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. They shouldn't have pulled his name down off of everything, and they even took his pictures out of the private boxes. Like everything's gone in the hallway. Like he's
Wow.
not there anymore.
Wow, I just don't agree with that. I hope like I said, the guy was a Hall of Fame a baseball player. He's probably one of the most talented players the Jays ever had, and I don't know why they couldn't have just left his name and all that on there. If they wanted to, like I said, mentioned to you before, if they wanted to cut ties with him for a little bit as an ambassador, I can understand that, but. Yeah, you don't erase history like that. And he was a part of their history, a big part of it, winning those World Series in 92 and 93.
Yep, for sure. And like you said, they didn't pull OJ down in Buffalo, and he didn't win anything
No,
there.
no. And like I said, yeah, like what he did on the field should not have any impact what he did off the field. It's like so I totally I hope they fix that and that's one thing I have an issue with them. But also, like I said, Jerry Howarth really should be honored by the team. I know he's a very humble guy, down to earth guy, but to me, he's as he's the voice of the Blue Jays as much as Tom Cheek was, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, they went hand in hand, right? They were on
Yeah,
every broadcast together. So yeah, for sure,
definitely,
he should be. There should be a long list of guys up there, and maybe that's
definitely.
something with the upgrades that they do to the Rogers Center in the next couple of years. Maybe that's something they can address. Like, what does it hurt to put another name on a ring that's just blank?
That's true.
Like, put some names up there. People asking questions. Who is this guy? Yeah.
Definitely. Hey, the Rogers Center, I'm not the biggest fan of, but the location is great. So I really do hope they do upgrade the stadium. Do you know if they're still talking about putting grass in, or they've kind of put the kibosh on grass at the Rogers Center?
Yeah, I don't know if the grass is going to work. I actually know they were trying to work with the University of Guelph in like the turf, getting
Mm,
natural grass, and I just don't know if they'll ever get that happening. It seems like now the turf they have in the outfield, it's better. It's getting closer to grass, and now with it being just the Jays there, no Argos there anymore. I think they've put sand down in the infield and taken out some of the rubber pellets that was holding down the turf, so it's more of a natural feel. You don't get those crazy hops. So
okay, definitely, definitely. Now, did you go to opening weekend for the Blue Jays against Texas?
I was at opening night, opening day. Yeah,
How
yeah.
was that? What was it like being back for an opening day in Toronto and having a full crowd there?
Having a full crowd was nice. I went last year when they came back from Buffalo, but you were at limited capacity and it
Hmm.
was noisy, but it wasn't the same. Having people sitting in the 500 level, like that's crazy. Like it's been forever. Well, since 2016, since people even wanted to sit up there. So
Yes.
it's nice. It's nice, and I think the players like it. Like who wants to play in an empty building? Nobody.
It's not the same. I did TV work for Rogers TV for the Guelph Storm games this year, and they had no fans. It's not the same without the fans in the arena. So I'm glad things have gotten a lot better. Hey, I was just going to ask you a couple more questions. Are you still okay for time, Derrick?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. When did you start collecting the big ticket or the big Blue Jays memorabilia?
Uh, I'm gonna say like maybe 10 years ago, like getting into like bigger stuff. So what happened, I would take like I started with my collection with cards and autographs. And then as I started getting more into game use stuff, I kind of moved away from the autographs and stuff like that. Stuff that anybody can get. I like more of like the unique items. Like there's only three or one or 10. It's not like a baseball card where there's 200,000 of the same one and anybody can get it. I kind of like having the one off or the strange piece or a piece that you can look on a baseball card and say, hey, look, he's holding that glove. I have that glove that he's holding on the baseball card. That's kind of like, it's more what I'm into now, more the unique pieces.
Pieces. That's really cool. I was going to say this leads to my next question. Obviously, you got the sign from Exhibition Stadium. How many items did you actually get from Exhibition Stadium, the former home of the Blue Jays from 77 to 89?
I have a few. I have a couple. I have a few other signs that hung in like the concourse. I have a turnstile, some seats. Uh, Maybe that's about it. Mostly signage. I have an usher's jacket that they wore,
Wow.
but the
Wow.
signage is kind of cool. And the seats, there's seats around. Lots of people can. Well, there was lots of seats in that building, and they kind of made them all available. They sold them all off. So yeah.
Was it the grandstand seat, or was it the in the infield seats, the middle ones?
The aluminum ones. You can get them both. I have grandstand seats, like
Cool.
the plastic ones
Yes.
they had in there. Yeah, the aluminum ones are nice, and actually they're more comfortable than the seats at the Rogers Center because they're a little bit wider. Those
Really?
old aluminum seats are very comfortable to sit in. Yep.
Wow. Compared to the ones they have at the Rogers Center.
Yeah.
That's another thing they need to address. They need to get rid of those 1980s plastic seats in the 100 levels at the Rogers Center.
Yeah. The 200 levels have padded seats. Why can't the 100 level take out a few seats, give it a little bit more room? That's
Yes.
okay. You'd lose a
Yes.
few seats.
Yeah,
Yep.
because they built the stadium in the '80s where people weren't as big as they are now. And for me, I'm a little bigger guy. I like a little more leg room and space, and that's the thing you're missing at the Rogers Center is leg room and a little more space for the fans, comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You don't have quite a. I think they could take out a couple rows of seats, reconfigure some stuff. It would be an amazing place because the sight lines aren't so bad at the Dome. It's not. It's not that bad.
No, hey, I was gonna say your seats. Did you get? Sorry, did you get any of them autographed by the players? My cousins in Taylor, Michigan, got a couple seats from Tiger Stadium, and they had Jack Morris, Lance Parrish, Dave Bergman autographed them for them.
No, my seats don't have autographs on them. The ones from Exhibition Stadium don't. No.
Okay, I was gonna say that it's just still cool, really having those seats.
Yeah. Yeah. They're pretty cool,
So
and you can sit in them to watch a game, or you can't really hurt them. They sat out in the elements for 30 years, 40 years, so
yeah,
can't hurt them.
have you done any work with them, or just left them as the original state?
They're the exact same way as when they got pulled out.
Got that there, yeah, definitely. So, how many games did you end up going there as when you were younger?
Exhibition Stadium, not so many at Exhibition Stadium. Like by the time it closed, I was 10. So like maybe a handful of games at Exhibition Stadium, but
Yeah.
so most of my like memories from 10 on are at Skydome and
Yeah,
like the late 80s.
80s. Okay. I went to about 40 or 50 games at Exhibition Stadium. I just wish I found something on eBay that I had when I was 6 years old. I went to my first Jays game, May 78. I remember this from Exhibition Stadium, Seattle, Toronto. It was Laura Secord baseball night. And I
Awesome.
had one of those balls. They were autographed by the team. They weren't the real autographs, but I went and looked at it on eBay, and I'm like, I wish I had kept that. But for some reason, when I was a kid back in the 70s and 80s, didn't keep autographed baseballs. I would end up playing with them, and it's like I wish I had protected more things back then because just yeah, it's just I was like it was kind of neat seeing an item that I had when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have one of those. I have one of those lower C chord balls.
Well, and
Yeah.
they're
And
hard
that's the
to
thing. Yeah. Kids would play with them. Same with if a player gave you a bat and it wasn't cracked, kids would take it out and play with it. Right.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when I went to Tiger Stadium in '82, one of the Milwaukee Brewers gave me a baseball and they signed it, and one of the autographs on it was Paul Molitor. But being 10 years old at the time, I didn't bother protecting it. I went and played with it.
Played with it. Yep. Yep.
So it's like I'm kicking myself because I had stuff back then that I should have protected, but we didn't think about it back then because back then memorabilia wasn't a big deal back then.
Yeah. And that's the reason that the values all went up because guys your age, my age, if we got something like that, we wanted to go show our buddies and play with it and think this is the coolest thing ever. We're using the same ball they used. And now the values have it drives the value, right? And now it's a business though. Like teams are selling the stuff. It's a little bit insane, but the way the teams
Definitely.
are doing it. But I guess it's just the world we live in now.
Yes, definitely. Leads to my next question. You still good for a few more minutes, Derrick?
Yep.
Okay. What has been your hardest Blue Jays memorabilia item to purchase find so far?
Um, For Jays stuff, any jerseys pre-1988 are tough. They recycled most of their home jerseys down to the minor leagues, where they'd be stripped or a patch would be put over the guy's name. And then a minor league would wear it for 2-3 years, and then they're kind of destroyed or somebody takes it home. So anything pre-88 Blue Jays is a little tougher to find. And then there's certain players that are a little, for some reason, are hard to find. Manny Lee, Rance Mulliniks. These are guys like their bats. They're just hard to find. I don't know why. But you can find stars, like you can find Barfield, you can find Bell, Fernandez. But those other guys, it's just tougher to find their stuff. I don't know why.
They must have kept it themselves, or that's a good question.
Yeah, a lot of the Dominican guys would send stuff back. Like Tony Fernandez would send back his bats and gloves back to the Dominican and give them to kids. I don't know about the other guys, why they're Rance Mulliniks. I don't have a Rance Mulliniks bat. I don't know why. I can't find one.
Not yet. You keep looking. Hey, that's another thing too. The Blue Jays only have Alomar's number 12 and obviously Roy Halladay. But to me, Dave, Steve, and Tony Fernandez's numbers should be retired. Fernandez is the greatest shortstop in Blue Jays history, and Dave, Steve, to me, as much as the late Roy Halladay was great, to me, Dave, Steve is still the greatest pitcher in Blue Jays history.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Steve and Halladay's, their stats they're comparable. Steve doesn't have the wins, but he played on a lot of bad teams. Halladay played on bad teams, but different time period. Steve, if you go back and check, he should have probably won about 3 Cy Youngs.
And he should have had
5 or 6 no hitters.
And maybe a couple perfect games too. Yeah.
It's good that he hung on and was part of the 92 team. Like he didn't play in the playoffs, but he got his ring. And so that was at least nice.
Yeah, because when I see Hernandez wear his number, I'm like no disrespect to Hernandez. It's just, to me, when I see the number 37, I think of Steve. Same with number 1, Tony Fernandez. To me, the team needs to honor retire a few more numbers.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Definitely. They should. And now I guess Alomar's number is still retired. They took the banner down, but no, I don't think nobody's going to wear number 12. So
12. So I was going to say, so besides Mulliniks, is there somebody else or any other players that you're trying to get stuff from?
Mostly those guys like that time period when I was growing up, like mid 80s to early 90s guys. Could be Lloyd Mosby, like any of those guys. There's just some could be Doug Linton. I'm looking for a Doug Linton jersey. It's the first game I ever went to the Dome he pitched, and I have the pants he wore that day. I don't have the jersey he wore. So I can find the jersey from the first game I went to Skydome. Yeah.
Wow. How many jerseys and pants do you have?
I have a couple full uniforms, like jerseys, pants, cleats that of maybe 3 guys that are full. Jerseys, I'm gonna say around 190 jerseys.
Wow.
And
you have a special room for all of them?
Right now it's kind of taking over my basement, but there's plans for a full room just with this stuff in there, so it doesn't drive my wife crazy.
I was gonna say, and you know what? I like those pullover jerseys from 77 to 88.
Yeah, those are my favorite too. Those ones are those blues, the home whites. I don't know. I think the players took a lot of their home whites home, even through the 90s. I think they would take their home jersey with them. Home jerseys seem to be a little bit tougher to come across in any of the years up until like the 2000s. But yeah, I like those pullovers too. They're the nicest. And you actually get to see like a guy's, he was pretty small. Some of those guys are small. The jerseys shrink a little bit, but some of those guys are pretty small if you look at the size of the shirts they were wearing.
Do you have a Cecil Fielder jersey?
I don't have a Cecil Fielder. Probably if you get into the 2000s where the guys wore baggy uniforms, you'll have guys like Delgado wearing like a size 54 or 52, which is huge. Because if you go back like George Bell would wear a size 40.
Wow.
It's like different time period, though. Guys were thinner. They wore their uniforms tight.
Yeah.
But once you got into that 2002, 2003, guys had baggy pants, baggy jerseys. Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of covered up the steroids up for a lot of teams.
True. Do you have any bases from the Exhibition Stadium or from the Rogers Center?
I have a couple bases. I have a base from the first game my kids ever went to. I have third base from that game, and I've got third base from the last game the Jays ever played in Buffalo.
Wow!
Before they came. Yeah, bases. I've had a few others, but I'll wheel and deal them. Get something else. Sometimes they're hard to display, so.
Yeah, cool.
Right now, I just have a couple.
I was at the second last ever game at Exhibition Stadium, but back then I didn't have a camera and I misplaced the ticket stub. But I was going to say that last game of the Jays and the Sox there, I remember after the game watching the footage of all the White Sox players taking the bases.
Yep, Ozzie Guillen pulled up second base and took it. Yep, I don't know what they did with them. I don't know where they are, but maybe the Jays took them. Who knows?
Yeah, because that's another thing too. The Jays need to find some of this history stuff and then put it on display. Like I said, a Blue Jays a Hall of Fame area at the Rogers Center in the future.
Yeah, you know what they did? The Jays had almost like a vault. They had all the jerseys all locked up, and they opened it up. I'm going to say late 90s, early 2000s. They opened it up to the public and they sold everything off. So they have like. I think the oldest jersey they have there is maybe a Halliday.
Wow. And
they have a little display down by the Jays clubhouse with Batista's bat flip bat and stuff like that, yeah. Joe Carter. But all the other history, it's gone. They don't have it. Not that I know of.
One thing I'm curious about, the Exhibition Stadium fence, did they ever sell the fence off in parts? Or did they, they had the banners of teams on the fence. Did anybody ever buy those banners off the fence?
The banners I know for sure were sold. I'm going to say like maybe 25 years ago. Remember, they used to put them in order depending on the standings. So they'd first place and then they'd put them in order along the fence. But I know I think it's a bar in Boston has the Red Sox one.
Wow. From
Exhibition Stadium. They came out, they were huge. They don't look big on TV, but when you put them in your house, they're quite
Yeah, that fence sold. Yeah, it's too bad you didn't get a part of the fence from that stadium.
Yeah. I would take a locker room stall, anything out of there. Yeah.
Oh man, that's too bad.
Okay. Went to demolition, so
definitely. I'm glad BMO Field's there, but to me, I still remember Exhibition Stadium and stuff like that. But BMO Field is quite nice, and it's nice to see the Argos on that site than in the Rogers Center.
Yeah, for sure. That is a nice little stadium there.
Okay, how many items do you think you have so far that you've collected over the years? Just guessing.
Just like game used items, I'm gonna guess around 500-600 game used items. But I've kept like tickets and programs and autographs and signed baseballs and trophies that were given to players and anything like. I love the batting helmets. I love trophies that were given to players because it was like their trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Bats are cool. Bats, I don't know. I like them all.
Do you have any? Hey, when I grew up in Oakville, one of my favorite players, I met him as a kid in Oakville, Domisil Garcia. Do you have any of the late Domisil Garcia items?
I have a couple of bats. He's another guy. You don't see his jerseys around. I know he burned one of them, but you don't see his jerseys. For a guy that played here for a long time, you just don't see much of his stuff. Just the bats. It's the only thing I've ever seen of his.
Bats. I wonder what happened with his stuff.
I don't know. He could be another guy. Maybe he sent it back, gave it to people. But I don't think the players got so much of their stuff, and they didn't think about taking it home. There's the odd guy like Jesse Barfield. He seemed to like keep his stuff and has a nice collection himself. David Wells kept his stuff. But I think a lot of the players, either they're not interested or they didn't think about it. They kind of lived it. They don't need the stuff. They have the memories, right?
That's true. And as far as I'm concerned, after Alomar, Damaso Garcia to me is their second best second baseman in history. Because to me, he was their first real star second baseman.
Yep, yep. He was a star. And an expo too.
That's true. It's just unfortunately his career in Toronto ended on a bad note. Unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. He was definitely a favorite here. Everybody liked Damaso Garcia.
Yeah, because when I was a kid, he grabbed my hat and he used it for ball practice in Oakville. And as an 8-year-old kid, I still remember it 42 years later. And it was a big deal back then being a little kid and having a Major League Baseball player grab my Blue Jays hat I had at the time. And he used it for practice. And then he brought it back to me and he talked to me for a few minutes. And he instantly became my favorite Blue Jay player, even though I grew up as a Tiger fan too.
Yeah, that's cool. See, those are the things that like people have like those little interactions and like somebody else has never heard of Damaso Garcia, but he's like embedded in you, right? That's very cool. Yeah.
Same with Jerry Howarth too, and I'm working on getting Jesse Barfield coming on my podcast too, hopefully to talk about his career with the Jays and in baseball and all that as well. So
that would be amazing. Jesse seems like he's a great guy. I've messaged him on Instagram and he'll answer me back, and he's usually pretty good with the fans.
Definitely. Just got a couple quick questions for you. What is your favorite right now? Your favorite Blue Jays memorabilia item that you have, if you have one specifically?
I probably have a couple, like the Roger Clemens game worn jersey from this is from his first season here.
Wow,
97.
cool. 97. Wow.
Yeah. And this I've actually photo matched this one to his return to Fenway Park.
Wow.
Which is pretty incredible. Like if you can photo match something, especially if it's something significant, like on a baseball card or a big game, or photo matching is a huge thing, especially stuff that doesn't have the MLB authentication hologram to tell you this is the day they used it, this is the day it was broken. Like you got to go on Match Threads and look at pictures, and once you find a photo match, it's like Christmas morning.
And I was going to say, and I love seeing your pictures on your Instagram page of all your jerseys, especially the Dave Steve one.
Yeah, that's a nice one too. The Steve, the 82 Steve. I actually just got that one recently. And another tough guy to find. I've only seen a few of his, like maybe 6 or 7, for a guy that pitched here so long. Like you'd think there'd be more. I don't know where they are. I don't know if Steve has them. I don't know. Yep. All those words are good. Those are all good. Anybody.
Definitely. And Steve in 82, he pitched, I think, 270 innings and I believe he had 19 complete games back then. You're lucky to see a pitcher nowadays have 1 or 2 complete games in a year. Steve had 19 in 1 year.
That's crazy. That's like, even just thinking about it, guys like Steve, Jack Morris, they were there to pitch 9 innings when they started, and if they didn't, they weren't happy.
Oh yeah. Steve and Morris. If Steve was on Detroit in the 80s and Morris was on the Tigers, Steve probably would have been in the Hall of Fame. Not that Jack Morris didn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but if Steve had some better teams in the late 70s and early 80s, better bullpens, he would have won probably 250 games. To me, he should have won at least 250 in his career.
And he might still get in. Maybe the Veterans Committee will put Steve in. The guys that played against him, they know how good he was.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. His numbers might not be there compared to other Hall of Famers. He didn't get 300 wins, but 300 wins doesn't mean anything anymore. Halladay didn't get 300 wins. Like, guys don't get 300 wins anymore. It's not happening. They don't stay in the game long enough to do it.
No. And and to me, Jack Morris was known for his forkball, but to me, Dave Steve had the best slider I ever seen in my life, and even to this day.
Yeah. Steve slider. Morris's forkball. And those are the two guys, like all the way through the 80s until Clemens came in, like those were the two dominant guys, right? And then Clemens from 86 took over a little bit.
Yep.
Those are the guys of the 80s. Those are the 80s pitchers.
Definitely. I think you did have a sign from Exhibition Stadium Grandstand. I think I saw on your Instagram page. Section number 37.
Yep, yep. I do have one of those, and I have
How did
another. I have a bigger sign. It's actually in my garage. That it's like the section seats. Like the arrows pointing down. It's like just a big wooden sign that hung in the concourse.
Wow. How did you get that sign from the grandstand then?
That one came. It's funny. Like I'll come across ex-employees, or when the building was being torn down, they didn't care. They let anybody go in and just take whatever was there. You could have
Wow.
just been in and taken whatever was in the room. Like it was all going to demolition, so it didn't matter. I think that 37 sign, there was a couple. I had a number for just saving.
I was gonna say if the stadium was being torn down now, but then back in '89, I bet you more people would have gotten more items out of that stadium.
For sure. Yeah. And now teams sell everything. They sell the dirt from the field. They sell balls that were foul balls. Yeah, the teams didn't know that it was going to be marketable, or else they would have been selling it. They wouldn't have been giving it away or throwing it out. They would have sold everything that was in there. Yankee Stadium got everything sold. The dirt sold. Everything sold.
Definitely. When I went to Fenway Park a couple years ago, I was lucky enough to get a little sample of the Fenway Park infield dirt, so I still have that as well.
Yep. Yep. Lots of guys. And Steiner has like warehouses full of dirt from all over Major League Baseball. They just have like skids and skid dirt, and they're selling it one little bottle at a time.
One thing I was always curious about, what did the Jays do with the artificial turf when they left Exhibition Stadium? Did they give that away, or did that get thrown out?
I'm not sure. I know of a couple guys that were bat boys at Exhibition Stadium, and they had pieces at their cottage, and they would wipe their feet on it before they got in the boat just to clean off their feet. But I'm not sure if they repurposed that turf, if it got thrown out. Maybe it went to some other use somewhere. Someone was using turf. I have no idea where that went.
Did you manage to get any of the clubhouse items out of the clubhouse too from the stadium, or?
From the stadium, no. They didn't really have much in there, like other than their stalls, and like they kind of had like just little folding chairs, really. Like I've got equipment bags and stuff like that were in the stadium, or the team's bags that they put all the bats in when they travel, stuff like that I have, but I don't think there was much else in there. I'm sure there was signage, but even finding pictures inside Exhibition Stadium there's not many pictures of that building. Like when you look online, Toronto Public Library has some, but trying to find pictures of anything of that time, it's pretty difficult.
And I saw one of the bags that you had on your Instagram, John Mayberry bag from 1980. That's impressive.
Yeah, that one is pretty cool. It actually had his mail still in the bag, like it's a condolence letter for his father that was sent to him. It was still in the bag. I bought it from a guy in Kansas City, had it.
Wow. Yeah. And I met Big John Mayberry in 1980 at Photo Day at Exhibition Stadium. Had his big arms wrapped around me, and that was the one thing I remember about that team. These guys were good back then, but as a kid, meeting these guys and having access to them, it was huge. And it's not like that today. Now with today's players, the fans have very little interaction with these guys.
Yeah, there's very little interaction, and now with the screening all the way up, like you have two sections basically in the 100 level where you're accessible to the players, but it's just different now. If you go down to spring training, the players are more than happy to sign autographs and talk to you, but day to day, it's tough. You got to find them outside, and hopefully you're not bothering them. They're not going for dinner or in something. The guys are just a little different now. Yeah.
It's like I met Lloyd Mosby back in 1982, and I still have my picture with him from photo day. And it was like, wow. I kind of like to meet him again and say, hey, Lloyd, remember this from 1980? I had my picture taken with you at photo day at Exhibition Stadium because the Shaker is one of my favorite players, too. I think he was underrated. I think he was one of their best center fielders. Obviously, Devon White, but to me, Lloyd Mosby is probably their second best center fielder they've ever had.
Yep. Yep. He was great. Actually, my dog's name is Lloyd Mosby, so I loved him too.
What kind of a dog is Lloyd Mosby?
He's an Italian Greyhound.
Wow.
Very fast.
You have to post a picture of him. Jesse
Yeah.
Barfield would probably get a laugh out of that.
Yeah. I'll post him with some of Lloyd's gear.
Okay. Yeah, one of my friends in Windsor, Mike, is a Tigers fan like I am, and he has a dog named Lulu, after Lou Whitaker. And Lou Whitaker is one of my favorite all-time players, and I'm just so glad they're finally retiring number one, and he should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys, Whitaker and Trammell.
Yeah.
Like those guys were Lance Parrish. Those guys were Tigers. Jack Moore. Lance Parrish. There's another guy. I'm looking for something Blue Jays Lance Parrish. He was here for a handful of games.
Yeah.
Like 50 games, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't right. But when I saw him in '95 with the Jays, I'm thinking it's not right. When you think of Lance Parrish, you think of the Tigers, you think of Lance Parrish, and then Lloyd Mosby became a Detroit Tiger in 1991. I'm like, this doesn't look right. There's certain guys that don't. They should just be in one city, and it was weird seeing Mosby in Detroit and Lance Parrish and Jack Morris as Blue Jays.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Definitely.
Morris. Jack bounced around a little bit, and he was getting rings everywhere. Minnesota, Toronto. He almost got it in Cleveland.
Yes.
Like he was on a tear there for a little while.
Yeah, he's an analyst on Bally Sports in Detroit for the Tigers with Matt Shepard. He does a great job. And Jerry Howarth worked with Jack on the radio for a year or two. And Jerry was a big influence on Jack Morris's radio career as well.
Very cool. Jack is he's like a throwback player, right? Like guys don't pitch like that anymore. Guys don't pitch 11 innings in the World Series, right? Like they're just not built like that anymore.
I think Dave Steve one game pitched 10 or 11 innings. I think there was one game he went like 10 or 11 innings.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys, they started a game. It was like they didn't want to leave until the game was finished.
Definitely. Hey, speaking of broadcasters, do you have anything from Tom Cheek, Jerry Howarth, Don Chevrier, or Tony Kubek, or any of that?
Yeah, guys? Actually, I have just like signed photos and stuff from those guys. I have a press photo signed by Chevrier and Kubek. Awesome. Tom Cheek signed McCarthy postcards that they put out in like late 70s. The Jays did them, and Cheek got one of those. Yeah. Tried to cover like, all of those guys, Fergie Oliver, even like all those guys.
Yeah, because like I said, I think Tony Kubek and Fergie are still alive, but I know Don Chevrier passed away a few years ago, and same with the late great Tom Cheek as well. But I'm so glad he got the Ford C. Frick Award and has been honored by the team. And I'm really still hoping Jerry gets his name on the level of excellency one day as well. And he should be in the Hall of Fame for Cooperstown as a Ford C. Frick winner.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Jays will put him up on the level of excellence for sure. They've got a street named after him in Etobicoke, so they got to put his name up there.
That's awesome. And like I said, I'm hoping one day to be able to talk to him again. He's such a nice guy, down to earth. He loves the 49ers, by the way. Huge 49ers fan. And his book, I keep reading his book and learning more stuff about him as well. So, Derrick, last question. I'm going to let you go because I know the game's at 7:05, and I've probably kept you a little bit longer, but I love talking about memorabilia and the past and stuff. But I was going to ask you, who is your all-time favorite Blue Jays player? And again, where can my audience find you on social media if they want to check out some of your photos of your Blue Jays collection over the years?
Okay. They can find me at Blue Jays Game Used 2019 on Instagram. And if anybody has anything or questions, like, I'm more than happy if you want to send me pictures. I can help you out if it's something we're not sure. If you're not sure if it's game used or issued or you got it from a player, I have no problem. I just love seeing different things. And maybe you send me something and it's something I'm looking for, or I have photos of that exact item. it's just great finding the older stuff. As far as like favorite players, like all those guys at Barfield, it's hard to have one. Tony Fernandez is probably one of my top guys, but then David Wells. I love David Wells. I love all those pitchers: Steve, David Wells, Todd Stottlemyre, Clemens. Like the guys that they went in there to pitch. Like they weren't going in there for 4.5 innings.
Definitely.
They wanted to pitch the whole game.
There's one photo I need to send to you or put on my Instagram. I didn't realize this, but back in 1980, I had one of my pictures taken with Danny Ainge before he became a Boston Celtic. And Jamie Campbell noticed it. And Jamie Campbell's like, wow, you got your picture with Danny Ainge. And I'm like, yeah. And then Jamie goes, I was there in 1980. I said, who would have thought, Jamie, 40 years later into the future, we'd be talking on Twitter about the 1980 photo day at Exhibition Stadium. But I should send you a picture of myself with Danny Ainge. And at the time, I didn't know that was Danny Ainge.
That's very cool. I've seen a few bats of his and a couple of his jerseys, maybe one of his jerseys. I know Gord Ash had one of his jerseys for a while. He's another to find, or rare items. Bats are definitely tough to find of his.
Especially Danny Ainge jerseys, because he was only with the Jays, I think, from 79 to 81, and then the Celtics bought him out, and then there was a lawsuit or court case, and Boston, I think, paid the Blue Jays off for his contract.
Yeah, and a lot of his jerseys would have been recycled down to the minor leagues, too. They would have just sent them down, and
definitely
they didn't have names on them back then, or he maybe had one with a name, and they'd strip them, or they'd cover it with a panel.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do maybe in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to look for some of my old photos from that photo day and actually start putting them on Instagram. And then you can have a look at them.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. That was a big deal back then, these photo days. And I think the Jays should bring that back again, where fans can go on the field before the game and get their pictures taken with the players again.
I remember them up until the mid to late 90s, them doing photo day, where they would put the barrier out and you go down, take pictures, and the guys would all sit there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Those were really cool.
Anyways, Derrick, I'm going to let you go because I know the Jays game's on at 7:05. But again, that is a cool sign. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking about the Blue Jays and some of the items you've collected again as well.
No problem. It was great being on here. I'll find you one of those Laura Secord balls.
Oh, that would be awesome, because that brings me back to being 6 years old again. And I still have ticket stubs from the old Exhibition Stadium that I kept.
Yeah? You have your first game?
No, unfortunately, I don't have my first game, but I have ones from the early 80s from Exhibition Stadium still. And I have Taggart Stadium ticket stubs as well. And Ernie Howell, before he passed away, the late, great Tigers announcer, he autographed a ticket stub for me when I went to a game at Taggart Stadium on my 13th birthday in 1985.
Very cool. That's very cool. You have to message me the date of your first game. Maybe I got the ticket here.
Okay. Yeah, it was. I believe it was in May of '78 against Seattle. That's what I know. I believe it was in May, and it was 78 against Seattle, and it was a bleacher seat. We were sitting in the bleacher seats in right field.
Very cool. I might have one around.
Wow, definitely. But yeah, take a picture of that Laura Secord ball, because that brings back so many memories, and I should have kept the bloody thing.
I will. I know where it is for sure.
Okay. Derrick, I'm going to let you go, but enjoy the Blue Jays game tonight, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you on social media on Instagram. Thank you so much for coming on live with CDP.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
You too. Good night. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my podcast tonight. Season 3, episode 28 was Blue Jays fan Derrick Payne, and talking about the Toronto Blue Jays and his memorabilia that he collected over the years from the Blue Jays from the 70s, 80s, 90s until now as well. So thank you, Derrick, for coming on. That was great talking about the Blue Jays memorabilia and sharing some stories with us as well. Guys, just to let you know, my next live with CDP podcast is Thursday, April 14th at 5 o'clock Eastern. My guest is Kelsey Nicole Nelson from Bally Sports in the States, and she's now an NBA a reporter and anchor on their NBA show. And she's going to come on, Kelsey, and talk some NBA playoffs, which is coming up, and also talk some NFL as well. So Kelsey has been on my podcast before, and I'm looking forward to her coming back on for a second time this Thursday night at 5 o'clock. Again, Kelsey and Nicole Nelson from Bally Sports. And I just want to say thank you to everybody watching this podcast tonight live on my YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe notification if you already haven't. Thank you to everybody watching on Facebook Live and on Twitter. And also, guys, like I do for every podcast show, Live with CDP podcast, the audio version is downloaded to Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and LinkedIn. And also, guys, if you want to, you can follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. And you guys can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm all over the place on social media as well. So I think I'm going to call this a show. But again, thanks to Derrick Payne for coming on. And also, guys, if you like wrestling, check out Crossbody Pro Wrestling Presents Good Things card this Saturday, April 16th at 132 Argyle Street North in Cambridge. Doors open at 6 p.m. First match is at 7 p.m. Tickets are $25. One of the main events is Alexa and Nicole versus Taylor Rising. It's really good wrestling as well. So I think that's pretty well it. I know the Guelph Storm tonight play at 6 o'clock against the Erie Otters. It looks like the Storm are going to either take on Flint or the Sioux Greyhounds in the first round. It's still to be determined as well. I've got 2 games this week I'm doing with Rogers TV. Friday night against Kitchener at 7:30 at the Sleeman Center. I'll be doing that game. And then Saturday at 7 o'clock at the Sleeman Center against the first place Windsor Spitfires as well. And I think that's pretty well it, guys. Again, I want to say thank you to Derrick Payne for coming on. Great to talk Blue Jays and stories with him and his memorabilia collection. And we will see you guys Thursday night at 5 o'clock with Kelsey Nicole Nelson from Bally Sports. I hope you guys all have a great night. And good luck to the Blue Jays tonight. They're taking on the Yankees at 7:05 at Yankee Stadium on Sportsnet. Have a great night, guys. We'll see you Thursday, 5 o'clock for Season 3, Episode 29 of Live with CDP Podcast.